republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I would ask that all the commissioners just remember Commissioner Allen in your prayers. He had an unfortunate accident. I mean, he's doing okay, but just remember him in your prayers, please. Next is the approval of the agenda.
I have a correction to request, please. The resolution number that's on number 5 is the wrong number of what we're considering tonight. The new resolution number is 24-01-1149.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add the strategic planning workshop discussion under old business.
Okay. All right, do we have a second? Have a second by Commissioner Barron. Any discussion on the approval of the agenda and the amendments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I didn't know if I needed to add items under the old business, or can I just bring them up?
Sure.
Which you prefer?
Yeah, you can just bring them up.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's the way we've always done it.
Okay, Commissioner Palmer had me off kilter here. Thought maybe I need to change mine.
No, you're fine. Next is the appearance of citizens. Do we have anyone to appear before this committee or anything that's not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move ahead. HR Resolution 24-01-1149 to amend previous resolution numbers requested by Commissioner Yeager. Commissioner Yeager.
Thank you. All right, this is the same resolution we had next month, which had some requests to delay it a month so the committee members of the HR committee could have a discussion, and they've had a couple months now, so they did meet last month on Commission Day, so they did meet about a month ago. So this is essentially the same resolution, except I believe Commissioner Barron added a little piece that corrected.
There was conflict in there.
Yeah, so that's been corrected too. So in our continuing effort to comply to state regulations, state codes, I resubmit this, and that's my motion.
I'll second.
Have a motion, second. Discussion.
I would like, our commission's representative on the HR committee is Commissioner Wells, and I asked him to come too.
Commissioner Wells.
I just would like to hear your reflections on the last couple months on the HR committee and what has come about.
Sure, and I think the majority, and the mayor was in this last meeting, so if I speak wrong, please correct me, but the majority of department heads were thankful that y'all gave them time to discuss it, that you had the respect in them to let them have that opportunity. From everything I gathered from the meeting, listening to Mr. Shelton speaking as well very vocally, state law is state law, and to take the words out of Mr. Shelton's mouth, his mind was, why are we even discussing this? If it's state law, it just needs to be that way. From the conversation in the room, they all understood it. They saw that it was spelled out clearly. So it was, and am I misspoken in that? I mean, it seemed to be pretty well received that was. No motion or anything. Correct, yeah. That was, I think the consensus was, they didn't feel there was a necessary need to make a motion since state law spelled out the way this needed to be handled, so.
Okay, thanks very much.
You're welcome. Anybody else?
Any other discussion?
I'd like to ask something though.
Go ahead.
I won't use the word fire, I'll use dismissal. So on approval of the HR director, it's commission approval. But on dismissal, it's not. Is that the way, did you catch me, Jay?
No, I'm sorry, go
Okay.
ahead.
The resolution reads that commission will approve the
Confirm the mayor's
yes,
appointment.
but there's no, on dismissal, there's no commission involvement, is that true?
That's correct.
Okay, all right.
We talked about that. I can't find a case where that became an issue. There's case law and there's an AG opinion that says the right to fire follows the right to hire.
Okay,
So I don't believe it's a level that has to be taken up there. It appears that's a unilateral decision on department heads under the mayor that the
Okay.
mayor can make.
all right. That's all I have.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Mr. Chairman, which one are we voting on?
24,
Is the HR resolution?
yes, that's correct.
On 1149, that will be 1150. That is what you have sent to you last night as version 7. And what is the difference in version 6 and version 7? If you remember, last month Commissioner Palmer brought me that 3 items that were amended by consent agenda back in August. I've incorporated those 3 items verbatim, and that's the difference. That's how come there's a change there in the resolution.
So you're saying that it's 1149 and 1150?
It's 1150, correct? And then,
No, 1150 is veterans. It should be 1148.
49.
it's 48?
Yes,
Okay.
HR one.
The HR is 1148.
I
So that
apologize.
means IT is 1149.
49.
Okay, gotcha.
Then I amend my motion to approve 2401-1148,
Can you
Okay.
add in there version B, version 7?
version 7.
Okay,
I'll second.
you agree? Okay.
Okay.
Any discussion on, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm sorry I keep asking questions, but I've seen so many kind of floating around. I'm trying to,
That was a good catch.
well, no, I just don't know which one. I want to make sure whatever one I vote on. So the one I thought I read last said that the HR director would fall under the purview of the finance director.
That was the one I pointed out last night that was the wrong one put in the agenda packet. The one in the agenda packet that I understand that you were to discuss in operations in December was to bring it all under the Anderson County mayor. If you
Correct.
recall that weekend before the meeting, there was like 2 amendments requested, and I got all those, when I brought forward 3 different ones. Well, the one that ended up, what I felt like, neither one of them passed, but the one you were looking at was the one that put it under the mayor for the day-to-day operations that cited 56106, that statute.
State code.
Right, that's the one that I believe you're passing. That's the one that was just in the motion.
Okay, I just don't have it in front of me, but I'll,
It's in that email from last night.
from you?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
That was
Got a
this
hard
morning, I
copy.
think.
Yeah, let me see the hard copy.
8:20 this morning, I think, is what I showed for that. Unless
The one
you
that
sent
came
another
out
one.
today was the animal shelter.
Okay, gotcha.
So while I'm kind of so the way I understand it, if the HR director would report to the mayor's office, the mayor would have the right to terminate, mayor would have the right to suggest hiring, right? If the mayor's position, if we were needing to fill the vacancy, makes a recommendation for an HR director, what happens then? Does this body,
Confirm,
we confirm?
yes.
But the mayor, in their capacity, can still bring that same candidate over and over and over, just like we did zoning, right?
I suppose so, yeah.
Unless the mayor changes their
It
mind or,
mirrors the IT resolution that we did in December,
okay. All right.
and that's what the state law was.
I personally, and, you know, I'll vote to support this, but I'd rather we have something like we have with Jay. You know, I'd like for there to be a second level to remove any liability from future. And again, this isn't have anything to do with Mayor Frank or personalities. This is just about structure and processes in place, procedural processes in place. So if something down the road ever happens with the next mayor or whatever, I have concerns that I understand state law says the mayor in her capacity has the right to terminate or hire, but I also feel like we should have a mechanism in place to help review that process. I'm not saying that this body should have the right to hire or fire. I know we don't, but I think there should be some type of mechanism where the mayor makes that recommendation either to that committee for HR or to this body, and then we make a confirmation, if you will, because I'm sure the mayor in that capacity will have reasoning on why there's a termination to be in place or a hire for that matter. So I don't know. I just feel better to have an extra level of protection if in the future that comes to be. So, because at the end of the day, if the mayor in that capacity says, you know what, I'm going to terminate this person. I don't like what color shoes they're wearing today. I know that would never happen, but what we're doing would allow that to happen.
That's what I just asked you, wasn't it? If that's the law, that the person who hires is the person who fires. We just confirm the hiring.
Yes, sir, that is the question.
Okay.
I did, hearing some of the concerns on that, I put a provision in section 5 on termination of the Human Resources Director. The county mayor, upon due notice to the advisory committee, so the advisory committee would know
Okay.
of this. It's not the second level approval as you wanted, but it does require due notice to the advisory committee.
I'll support it, Mr. Chair. I just had some questions.
Good question.
So we're going on 1148.
1148, version 7.
Version 7.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next is board recommendation draft for the animal shelter from December 18th, county commission meeting. Commissioner Wandell, do you want to?
Well, yeah, we had a animal advisory committee meeting 2 months ago, I think it was, and we made a recommendation, forwarded it to this body, and then this body moved it forward, I think, and we made a motion for the mayor and the law director to get together to put something together. That kind of came out of that strategic planning committee, and we recognized that, you know, we need some board to kind of oversee the animal shelter, and that would be helpful in what everyone discussed. I just don't know if we have a action. Was you able to get a resolution
We
put
do.
together?
It's
You got it
resolution
before
number 2024-01-1159.
So that's
You
the
need a
one,
copy?
is that the one that was sent Friday, or is there?
No, it was sent today.
Today?
Yeah.
Thank you. You want this one back? Here you go. Thank you. So, I guess, for me, it would be important, Mayor, have you had a chance to look over this, or do you have any comments, questions, or?
I really haven't, Mr. Chair, or Commissioner Wandell.
I think it needs a good review by the mayor. There's some points there that were brought out in the meeting that we tried to incorporate that I want the mayor's blessing on, and want to make sure she's okay with it. This is a blended approach to the shelter, where the mayor does still have the authority to appoint the director and staff, but the shelter is actually supervised by the oversight committee. So I would want the mayor to take close study of this and to let Damon take a look at it. More or less, she's in charge of the personnel, and the oversight committee is in charge of supervision and operations and policy and program development for the shelter. They had several different models that were sent out. I guess that was Wednesday, from different areas, different jurisdictions that used a 501c3 to operate. I think that was a Campbell County model. Blount County was the same thing, sort of a Friends of the Shelter. But I believe the way, from what I was told, it shook out. I had two ladies at the meeting. It shook out they didn't want a 501c3. So this is an actual committee of county commission that would be running the shelter. I just want everybody to be clear on that.
Mr.
Make a motion to defer action until next month.
Second.
A motion second.
I'd like to ask a question. Is that enough time, do you think, 30 days, Mayor, for you to look over this and we'll see? Okay.
Any other discussion on deferral? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes to defer. Moving on to the mayor's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I do have, last month I asked to be under old business. You all had requested through this committee to write a letter to Congressman Burchett, Fleischman, and Harshbarger about the post office, so I have a draft to distribute to you. It did not make it into a motion for full commission, but we can do that, but I'll distribute that draft under old business, or if you want to put it under here.
Yeah, we can do it under old business, that's fine.
All right, the first, and I'm not asking for action on this first one, it's really, what happened is every year, at least I'm aware that Commissioner Mark Ezell, Director of Tourism for the state of Tennessee, has been putting together just a really neat statewide report on tourism and the numbers, and it's broken down county by county. And Anderson County actually ranks pretty well on the list. And so when the report came out, I know we have a lot of tourist spots. We have a lot of folks that ATV, we have Norris Lake, we have great trout fishing in Norris. But I'm also looking at us going, well, we don't have a Dollywood, and we don't have a lot of these things. So what is it that is truly bringing people here? Is it a mix? So I reached out to Josh Gibson, who actually puts the report together for Department of Tourism, and asked a little bit more about the numbers. How many folks are visiting for business-related travel? We have the top, global automotive manufacturers. They bring a lot of folks in. They do a lot of training. We have a lot of folks that come in for the whole DOE-related enterprise, environmental management, Y-12, ORNL, scientists, a lot of that. So Josh reached out to the commissioner and other folks within their department and said, we would love to come to town and brainstorm. So they did, and they brought a lot of data that I'm going to share with you on an email, but I wanted to kind of explain what you're looking at first before I send it out. So they gave us a lot of breakdown on the numbers, on what our cities are seeing, what the county is seeing. They gave us information on vacation rentals, the VRBO, in addition to the hotels and some of those travel-related numbers. But as we talked through things, one of the things they did explain was that there was a change in state law in 2021 that allows counties via a resolution to come under the state law, which means we could change how we do the occupancy tax if we come into compliance, if we agree to come into alignment with this new state law. That would mean that's where you go to these pages that I handed out in my packet to you, which so the changes I'm referencing are in that first sheet that is in your agenda packet, which talks about modifying, levying, or repealing hotel motel tax. And this law allows a county to levy, modify, or repeal a privilege tax by resolution rather than by private act, subject to the following restrictions. The tax must not exceed 4% of the consideration charged to the occupant of the hotel. So that kind of skips to this next page, which shows some of the potential for Anderson County, which would be the private act versus new TCA potential tax volumes. And I just have, where we are currently, and these numbers are based on trends for what we're seeing in our county. So that first number is what we're bringing in, $691,174. If we went to the new TCA model, what that would do, and there's three numbers presented there. If we adopted the 4%, that means as a county, we're lowering our occupancy tax by 1%. But what we're able to do is then collect from the whole county, where we currently do not do that. It would also mean that Clinton, which is at 3% could increase theirs, and Clinton could receive an additional percent. We could also adopt 3%, and you see, so under the 4%, we would increase our revenues for the county by 62%. Under the 3%, we would increase them by 21%, and then if we move to the 2% model, we wouldn't want to do that. We would lose funds. So I'm just introducing this as a topic for discussion, just as a way, you know, I'm looking, I did talk with the commissioner's staff, and I said, well, when we're talking about occupancy tax, and for instance, if we put, you know, if we stack hours in Oak Ridge or Rocky Top, like we're already doing in Clinton and Oliver Springs, would that hurt their travel business? And I know, like, over the last year, I even put that in an email to members of our advisory council and was told, no, that's not really what people are looking at. But I did ask their data team, and they said the point that they have found is 9%. You start getting over 9%, then travelers start looking at that. The other question I asked was, in Oak Ridge, is the federal government exempt from paying occupancy tax? Because that's the majority of visitation to Oak Ridge, and they are not. And so that's why I thought, okay, this is, I know we receive payment in lieu of money from the property, but if this is a way to further help the county, Oak Ridge, you know, Norris, Rocky Top do more, the county do more, then this is an idea that might be worth considering. And so I thought I would put it in front of you, then distribute, you know, more detailed information on what the cities are doing right now, what we're collecting by city basis, what we're collecting by the county, what we're collecting on these vacation rental homes. Put more data in front of you so that you know what the heck I'm talking about, because I was afraid if I just hit the send button, you would say, Mayor, what are you doing, and what are you talking about? So I do have just a little bit of information, and I'll shut up, but so Anderson County, our current rate is 5%. Norris is, what I see is not collecting anything, which their city rate is 0, but the county does collect 5%. The county collects 5% in Clinton, and Clinton collects 3%. Again, if we went to this new model, Clinton could raise theirs, collect more, and we could lower ours, and they would be the beneficiary of that. Oliver Springs, the county collects 5%, and the city collects 5%. In Oak Ridge, the county collects 0, the city collects 5%. In Rocky Top, the county collects 0, and the city collects 5%. And I'm looking at it from an opportunity standpoint. What I understand, especially when I was being sensitive in my questioning about what does that do, you know, I was told the majority of the shoppers are looking at that base rate. What's it going to be a night? 114, 107, 144, 229, you know, upwards. But I think the opportunity for what the county could do, whether that's invest in more infrastructure for, you know, I know we have on the agenda even this month an appropriation for Oak Ridge, for capital investment, for something that would be a tourism draw. It just presents an opportunity, and especially when we see that a lot of it would be coming from the DOE space. So it's a better way to partner more with the Department of Energy. So that's all I wanted to put out there for just a discussion point, and then get more information in your hands.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I think Norris should start collecting with the campground completion at the Museum of Appalachia. I guess it gets occupancy tax.
Okay.
doesn't, maybe the RV campground, so that'll be something to consider how that ratio is, but would changing any, if we go to the TCA model, does that affect what we're allowed to give to the chamber or to ACETA? Does that
Excellent
change that
question,
makeup?
excellent question. Yes, it actually would. So it would all have to fall under the TCA now, which is tourism or tourism-related expenditures, which also include anything for development or infrastructure or anything that could have some finger to point to there is some tourism-related activity. And so if this is something we did end up doing, then the chamber appropriations, we would just move to doing through a budgetary standpoint, instead of it just being an automatic 10% that is, just handled through the clerk in the trustee's office. It would be something that would come through the budget process. Yeah.
Thank you.
I think, actually, are we number 9 in the state as far as tourism? What number is it?
16.
17.
16.
It was in the top 20. That's what it was.
Yes.
Out of all the counties. Right, that's where I had the higher number. Yep. That's really good for what we got to offer.
Yep.
Which is mountains and lakes. Go ahead, Mayor.
That's all I had on that particular one. And then now that I've shuffled all these papers, what was next? Animal control?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I would like to, Dr. Garrett is here, and then I'd like to introduce Director Damon McKenna for a status update.
Mr. Chairman, there was something in the agenda that I would like to go back to that it seems that the IT resolution was reformulated. Do we need to vote on that new one?
Yes, if you don't mind. I didn't know if you wanted to do it now or later. The only changes are the, Commissioner Brand brought up last month, one of the conflicting provisions in section 3, and that didn't, seemed to indicate that the advisory committee had a bigger role.
Okay.
But now we've reformulated that, and it was inconsistent, so I made that change, and also there was one other spelling correction, but it's, in essence, it's the same other than that, small change to it.
So the number doesn't change.
Yeah, the number does change.
It does change.
I made it for January,
Okay.
but that's the only changes to it.
What's the number?
You got 48 on that one?
No. We changed,
47.
HR was 48.
49 then, correct? Yeah,
49.
IT will be 49,
24-01-1149.
correct.
I make a motion to approve 24/01/1149.
Got a motion and second discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Is there anything else there?
No, that was it.
Okay,
I just
thank
saw
you.
that.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Good evening, good evening, everyone. So I have just a little bit of a snapshot of this past year. And any of these numbers I go over, if you want them broken down any further, just let me know.
For the folks at home, give your name and position, please.
Damon McKenna, Director of Anderson County Animal Shelter.
Thank you.
So our total intake for 2023 was 957. We'll go over the bad stuff first. Euthanasia. We euthanized 108 dogs, 12 for behavioral, 13 for medical, and 83 for lack of space. For cats, we euthanized 34, 7 for behavioral, 11 for medical, 16 for lack of space. We had a total of 3 puppies pass away at the shelter. They all tested positive for parvo. A total of 13 cats passed away at the shelter or while in foster, 2 adults, 11 juveniles, due to age, not weaned, from severe upper respiratory or feline panleukopenia. That's a total of 158 deceased. In in-house rabies vaccinations. We did 121 cats, 61 dogs. We take our animals to be altered at Planned Parenthood in Harriman. We took 112 cat spays, 72 cat neuters. Out of those, 156 were rabies vaccinated. 47 dog spays, 36 dog neuters. Out of those, 83 dogs were vaccinated. If they weren't vaccinated, they weren't old enough yet. We have an agreement with Lincoln Memorial, usually in the spring. This past year, we took, 10 dog spays, 5 dog neuters, 12 cat spays, and all 27 of those were either transferred or went to rescue. Cats adopted at PetSmart Oak Ridge, 170. The active wait list, not including dispatch calls, these are calls coming direct to the shelter, are a total of 79 are in waiting right now, 44 dogs and 35 cats. Out of those, 31 are owner surrender with multiple animals, and 18 strays with multiple animals. Current in foster, we have 8 dogs, 12 cats. We've returned a total of 7 dogs, 3 cats to Young Williams Animal Center that end up in our county. We scan, microchip, and we take them back to them. That leaves 799 that have been adopted, transferred to other shelters, rescues, or currently in foster. We've had a lot of help with local rescues. Sarge helped us out with $5,000 worth of fencing repair. We've had a lot of help from Slum Dog Rescue Crew, the Dog Cottage, Sarge, Anderson County Animal Rescue Foundation, ACR, PetSmart Oak Ridge, the Humane Society of Tennessee Valley, Go North, Lincoln Memorial University. They've also helped us out with a network of rescue groups as well up north, including local businesses like the Clinch River Brewing. So.
Any questions? Yeah. Commissioner Wandell.
Thank you, sir.
First, Damon, thank you for that information. I guess I'm trying to understand, as the chairman of the Animal Advisory Committee that started in August of 2022, you've attended twice. Mayor's attended 3 times. Dr. Garrett, I believe, has attended twice. That's 12 meetings. We have asked for this information every meeting. So for my fellow commissioners sitting around the table, this is the reason we need a board. I'm trying to remain calm because I've spent a lot of time and effort trying to make sure we prevent euthanization. But because we have no communication, we don't really have any input. And to point out to my fellow commissioners, we are exactly right, an advisory committee. We have turned in pages upon pages of motions, requests, and recommendations. Have returned very little information, I would say none, to this body, the Advisory Animal Care Committee. Very discouraging that I come to this body and you're given a presentation, but the advisory committee, we don't get no information. Trying to figure out how that works. I suspect your supervisor, the mayor, directed you here tonight, and that's why you're here. Again, you don't have to come to the advisory committee. I understand that. But when there's volunteers across the county who have been working to try to help solve these issues, and there's no response, it becomes a little frustrating. So as we go into this, I'm just going to encourage my fellow commissioners to review the new board that's being proposed, keep those items in mind. My hope is, once the board is developed, that the advisory committee will just be an advisory committee, and the board will direct more than what we have been able to achieve. I appreciate the numbers, I appreciate the insight. I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Mayor.
Mr. Chairman, I do want to address, when we were asked for a status update on the numbers, Director McKenna did come to that meeting. I went with him, and we did provide that data at that meeting. So we have done a status report, and it was, I don't think this body ever got it, but we did give you a status report. And I don't know, I thought you were there, but maybe it might have been one where you're out of town, but we did come, and Dr. Garrett was there as well. So I just wanted to clarify that for the commission, that yes, I don't go to all of the meetings, and I think I have shared with this body that I don't want, given a very contentious past, I don't want the director to be there on his own. And maybe that's a mistake on my part, but there's still a lot of tension, and I have shared what I think the issues are. We have worked to respond to many of the items that the committee has asked for. But I'll also note there's some things that we've asked for, and I understand the committee, for instance, some help in establishing, you know, how do we as the county judge who are, you know, quality rescue organizations that we could partner with. And the committee has helped a little, but they've not finished that job. I don't hold that against them. They're busy doing all their things too, just like they're doing at the shelter on a day-to-day basis. So I just want to share that with you all.
Commissioner McCamey.
Mayor, what would be wrong with a monthly report that just shows?
We can do that if you
Yeah.
would like that.
I
We're
think-
happy to do that.
I think that would be great if you just get that for the commission, just break down exactly what he told us here for the year. Just do that on a monthly basis and get that out. That would help a lot.
Okay, I'm happy to do that.
Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What is our vaccination policy? Is that on intake, or is that just?
On intake, day one.
So it-
Unless it's an aggressive dog that can't be touched.
Okay, and you did say we've got foster dogs
Yes.
right now?
Yes.
And so is that something that if somebody wanted to apply, just
Come on back
people's
up.
information, yeah, if you don't mind.
Yes, sir. Yes.
How many have we got in foster care that?
Right now we have, let's see. 8 dogs and 12 cats.
Do we have like an application online for people to be foster parents? Or do
We
you
have
a contact
applications at the shelter, not
list?
online.
Okay, so that's something if somebody's interested in, they can come to the shelter and
Yes, sir.
talk about. Okay, thanks.
And you're going to supply us with those numbers in print that you gave us tonight?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because I'd like to have a copy of all of those. I made a couple of notes, but can't keep up with all of it as you're talking.
Commissioner
Yeah, you know, Mayor, I don't recall that you asked the Animal Advisory Committee for a vetting process for nonprofits.
It's on that spreadsheet. Veda put together a spreadsheet. There were some things that we were to do, and there were some things that we had asked for partnership on. It's on that spreadsheet that Veda, I think 3 months ago, put together. It was a status report on where we are, what's been accomplished, what's still to be accomplished, what's still a work in progress, what doesn't work, or
Okay.
isn't gonna happen.
I'm gonna just try to address two things.
Okay?
The first thing, if that's the case, when was the last communication from you to the Animal Advisory Committee asking for an update?
When was the,
When was the last time you communicated to the advisory committee seeking that information that
I'd
you
have to
just
go
mentioned?
back and look at my email, but I wouldn't be rude and just email anyone over in order to be aggressive or confrontational about it.
Okay. Is that?
I'm
I don't-
just
I
saying.
don't know what that means when you're
I'm
saying aggressive in a
I'm told
confrontation.
it's like a give and take, but even right now, it's a tense moment, isn't it?
Yeah, it is a tense moment. When you spend a lot of time as a volunteer, 12 meetings, 3 attendance, 3. Information provided at 1. This committee did its task. We did everything procedurally proper. We formed, I know you don't want to hear this, and that's fine. I'll just shut up, but I'll move to the next item, which is the most important item. Unfortunately, this whole animal shelter business has become not about the animals. It's become, as I've heard you say over the years, a political football.
It's not a political football.
Well,
It-
I
it
can
is
tell you
not.
this.
What it is,
The
it's about
animals
my
are not being
personal health.
Mr. Chairman,
It is
I
my
have the
personal
floor,
health,
and I would like to speak.
I mean, even
Being
the
cut off, I
tone
didn't cut
here.
her off.
All right,
I'd like to
the
speak.
tone here.
She
Let's
talks
both
about
calm
being
down.
confrontational.
Let's
The one
both-
confrontational is at that podium.
Let's both calm down and talk on an even keel. Go ahead, Commissioner Wonder.
Well, Mr. Chairman, we have produced reams of paper, of motions. I've heard several commissioners ask for information. Those items are on those motions. The mayor had 45 days to respond to those motions. I'd say 90% of those motions, no response, ever. Never. Less than 10%. If I'm wrong, I'd be happy to be wrong. In fact, I wish I was wrong. So I can tell you this, I have supported the idea of a new shelter, but I'll be voting against the shelter until we have a board in place that oversees our animals well into the future.
Commissioner Wondell, under new business, is that what we're gonna be taking up?
No, I
Under
have,
old business?
no, I have,
That's been deferred, sir.
Okay. All right, I know there's some other things you want to take up under old business. I just wanted
yeah,
to make sure.
that's other stuff, but I appreciate it. So, in essence of being a good, reasonable person and keeping myself in check, I'll just try to back off of this issue and I'll continue to pray about it. But I do want to say, Mr. Chairman, I appreciate all of the individuals that have attended these meetings. Commissioner Varen's been to every one of them, and I appreciate everybody's input. It has been frustrating the last 6-8 months because we haven't had any feedback, and it's hard to meet with people that volunteer that want to save animals, and we don't seem to get any input from the folks that manage it, from the top down. And I feel like some in there think they can't because they'll get in trouble. But we'll address all that later as we get a board developed, and hopefully that'll rectify the situation. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Well, I guess I would just like a legal opinion on the governance structure then. And I think that's part of the issue. What we're finding out from long-held questions are who appoints boards and committees. And I have expressed many times, I've actually, when we stood up this shelter out of necessity many years ago, we put together a task force. That task force was a great working group. We got the mission accomplished, And if we're going to do something that involves collaboration, I think it has to have people that are willing to work with the mayor and share a vision. And yes, there's always going to be disagreements. I think I've been here 11 years now and counting. Government is compromise, but you also have to have people that are willing to work with you. And I'm happy to put together a board or regenerate that task force and call it a committee. But it has to be the mayor chooses that committee to run the department. Do we have government where we can put together an oversight committee to oversee the sheriff, to oversee the register of deeds? I'm very familiar, so even tonight, something was discussed about Blount County. I've been in the animal world a long time. I went many, many years ago and visited Blount County. I also sat down with the mayor and Randy Vineyard, the finance director. I walked through their shelter. I understand the partnership they have with that rescue organization. It is a true collaboration in Blount County, and I have asked them for their copies of their documents and their agreements to partner. As I got that list, I'm going to get what these other counties are doing. But in Blount County, what they do is, for example, the organization raises funds, and they enter into an agreement with the county for what those funds will be used for. So what they do is the fundraising group says we're going to raise X number of dollars. Then the county says we're going to appropriate that. We're going to acknowledge that donation. We're going to plug it into our budget, and we're going to enter into an MOU with that 501c. So for instance, one of the things they've done in Blount County is done behavior testing. Safer testing is what it's called. And just because someone donates something, and this is an issue that we are going to take up at finance policy. We've even seen this with the donation of a basketball court. What are you taking on when you accept the donation? There needs to be clear parameters. Just because someone wants to give it to you, what if they give you some kind of crazy statue that they want to put in front of the courthouse? Same thing for this partnership with the 501c. It's good, but you have to work in conjunction with the program. It might be something that's totally at odds with our veterinary council or the director, and so that's where you have to work things out. So my mother and my aunt were in this field for a very long time. That's how they worked for a very long time with the Oak Ridge Animal Shelter. A lot of folks are familiar with some of the programs that they helped start. The shelter had an interest in getting dogs out. University of Tennessee had an interest in doing rehabilitation for juveniles, for young people, to help them develop a relationship, understand some of the things that they were dealing with. And we were approached from NOAA and asked, do you want to partner? Here's what we need. And that's how partnerships work. So I'm all about partnership, but I don't know that the current structure is all that it needs to be. And I think part of that is maybe the appointment process on the advisory board, for starters. So.
Thank you, Commissioner Yeager. Anything else under that? Oh.
Hi, I'm Katrina Hall, live at 124 Longwood Lane in Clinton. And I just have a question for Damon, if that's okay, concerning spay and neuter, because it's such a, you understand the problems with spay and neuter. And I know you guys use Planned Parenthood, but I also know you adopt out animals without spay and neuter. And I'm just trying to understand exactly how that process works, and how do you verify spay and neuter? If a dog or a cat is adopted out without spay neuter, how do you verify that it is in fact spay neuter? Because that is part of the adoption price, correct? So I'm just curious of what that process is, because I haven't been involved in that in a long time.
Come on up front so everybody at home can hear you.
We get them into Planned Parenthood, you know, as fast as we can. As far as dogs, we can only send 2 dogs a week. So sometimes it may be they adopt on day 1, but the dog may not get or spayed or neutered a month later. And if for some reason it's going to be too long, then we try to schedule it with one of the local vets, either Anderson County, Norris, or Clinton.
But how do you follow up? That's kind of what I'm trying to make sure that it happens, because once it leaves, you know what I'm saying? And if it's up to the actual adopter.
We have a folder that has every animal that has not been altered yet, that has went out.
Do you actually confiscate the animal back if it's not been done within a certain period of time?
So far, we've not had that problem. But yes,
Period of time.
if that were to be a problem, we would do that, yes.
Because I saw something, there's a state law, I think, that specifies one.
The problem we have is we only have 12 kennels for the whole county. And we're in a constant balance. And it's either we stretch it out a little bit this way, or these euthanasia numbers are going to go up even higher. So we're in a constant of either ticking somebody off, not making somebody happy, but I can tell you 100% for sure we are doing the best we can with the resources we have.
Yeah, I'm not disputing that.
But I feel like you are.
Just address the chairman, please.
Yes. But that's all I have to say about that.
Okay. Dr. Mark, you got anything? Been a while since I saw you.
I was to be here. I did not know what you would want from me.
Well, I just recognized that you were here, really. Yeah.
Thank you. If you had questions, like I said, I wasn't prepared. I just to be here.
Okay. Anything else? If not, we'll move on. Veteran Service Resolution from December 11, 2023.
You've got that before you. Let me explain what we've got here. The veteran service position is only appointed by the county legislative body. It is not a county mayor appointment at all. I've quoted the statutes in there for you to take a look at. What we tried to do is to shore this up and make sure we were operating under the correct statutes. As you know, we repealed a private act last year and ratified that change going back to the statutory scheme that's embodied in Tennessee law, so we're no longer under that private act. Couple things I put in here. I just created the Veteran Service Officer, the Advisory Committee, and I think the mayor was asking me for a legal opinion on what entities she appoints. That's boards and commissions. These are committees of county commission. And you can see the statutory scheme. I quoted the statute verbatim there. When I sent this out for review, and I believe Commissioner Wandale, don't let me misquote you, but I believe you wanted the county mayor to have more of a role in the day-to-day supervision. Is that correct, sir? Because right now we've got an advisory committee, and it's obvious Leon, if he needs to go to somewhere, he's got to call an advisory committee, get a quorum, a public notice, the whole 9 yards. But is that the issue that you were concerned about?
Well, I thought that all these departments require employer of record. I didn't think that we could be the employer of record.
I've heard that several times before. There's statutes, and there's even an AG opinion that says county commission can employ. And here's a perfect example where the statute does allow such a thing. You employ vacancies in officials and offices around here. There's 2 or 3 other statutes I can think of off the top of my head. But when you hear that, that's just wrong. And here's one that says the Veteran Service Officer is appointed by the county commission. We put a advisory committee in place years ago. I believe I've got the date. It's been a long time. I think Robert served on it just about since its inception, so have you. But what I did to take care of your concern about day-to-day supervision, I put the county mayor shall assist the director and advisory committee as requested by the Board of Commissioners. So if you so desire, you can say, County Mayor, if you don't mind, would you be the day-to-day supervisor for the Veteran Service Office? And if she accepts, she could do that. Or I could write it in the resolution if you so desire, and she would be the day-to-day supervisor. But she does not appoint, the county mayor position does not appoint the Veteran Service Officer. So that's the way it's set up right now. Sets up the committee, it sets up the office, and it sets up the position of Veteran Service Officer. And it's pretty straightforward. Any questions on that one?
This is Resolution 24-01-1150.
Yes, sir.
I have a couple of questions.
Yes, ma'am.
please. There is it looks like that this advisory committee was set up in November of '06. Is that correct? That's on page 4, section 7.
Yeah, I thought I put it in here, section 7. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do we have a copy of, was that a resolution or?
Yes, it was a resolution. No, I believe it's a motion, but I've seen it before. I can get that to you.
Okay. And then section 2, there's a mission statement, March of '07.
That was passed by the county legislative body upon the
So
recommendation.
would that be a motion or a resolution?
I think it's in, I believe it came from, now, I'm talking off the top of my head. We had a vacancy in that office. The advisory committee was asked to do some screening on applicants, and they developed job duties, qualifications, and this mission statement. I believe it's all in one document. I can pull it up for you.
Okay. I would like to see those before I make any decision on this.
Believe me, I've taken this from official records. I don't pull it out from the top of my head.
Okay.
These are all official records. They've all been through the county commission, and that's where I quoted them and dated them.
So if I'm reading this correctly and understanding, you're saying that the county commission, the board, appoints this person, the officer,
Yeah,
and
you
then
go-
on the back, the hiring, termination, and all of that, that's all this, because that goes against everything
I
that
know
we've
you've heard
received in
that,
training,
but,
yeah.
at where, at
Well,
what?
at CTAS or any of the training that we've got.
CTAS training, they know the statute. I don't know who's telling you that, but I've heard that bounced around all the time, but that's simply not true. There's even an
Okay.
AG opinion on place on this issue, but I've quoted the statutes here. 58.3.109 provides legal authority for the Board of Commissioners to create the Anderson County Veteran Service Officer. And here is the statute verbatim: the county legislative bodies of the several counties of the state and the governing bodies of each municipal corporation of the state are authorized jointly and severally to establish service officers. And it goes on on page 3, it's got the necessary funding to support the Veteran Service Officer. That's in the statute 58.3.110. All subsection A, the several county legislative bodies of the counties. And it just goes on and on. I even put the
Yes.
next one. I think there's 3 statutes in a row there, but we are under the statutory scheme.
Okay, so this office, this department does not fall under the mayor?
No, that was a concern that Commissioner Wandell wanted, and we can, if she accepts, we can put the daily supervision in case Leon's very good at his job, but if he needs help on something emergency-wise, instead of having to call an advisory committee, he can go to the county commission, but she would have to accept that responsibility. But I did put something in here that says the county legislative body can request assistance from the mayor or the advisory committee, and that's in section 7. So we can knock that out if the mayor doesn't mind taking on that responsibility.
Well, I was just confused because the organizational chart that we have has it under the mayor. And so I'm assuming that it was placed there from
I wouldn't put too much faith in that
07 or 06.
organizational chart. I don't know who did it. It's
Well, we're
not
working to
correct,
correct
and
it.
we pointed it out, and I think that was something done by the finance committee for the auditors years
Mm-hmm.
ago. It's simply not correct.
Well, it's something that we put out to the public, and it's quite
Well,
confusing.
I didn't put it out to the public,
them
and
and to-
somebody else did.
To us as well, so, anyway.
What
I'd
I'm
like to
quoting
see
you
the
is
07
law.
and the 06 resolutions or whatever, just for, so we can compare. And see, I'd like to make a motion that we postpone taking any action on this or defer it till next month, until we get some answers or get the 06, the 07. And we got this win Sunday, so really haven't had an opportunity to digest it. So I'd like to make a motion that we just defer it a month to really give it
I'm
a
fine with your
good look,
deferral,
see.
but I'm telling you, this is the way we operate right now. It's the way we've operated for years. There's nothing different.
I have no problem with that. I mean, I don't oppose it at all. I just would like to look at it and understand it before I vote one way or the other.
I'm good for deferral for the next year. We'll defer it until this time next year.
Because it remains the same. It remains the same.
Yeah. So,
So we got a motion, a second to defer for 30
Till
days?
next month, yeah, just to
You
take
agree
any
with
action
30
on it.
days? Okay. All in favor of the deferral?
Aye.
aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes to defer. Mayor?
I did want to say, when I came in, my understanding, so like the private act, for instance, had, I think, the veteran service officer, what we were operating, we were really supposed to be appointing them every year. And so we pulled out from that, and we're under the state law, which, that's what Jay was referencing. But when I came into office, the only thing I really do in interacting with Director Jaquette is you do have someone who oversees when you're going to be out and turning in your timesheets. So he turns in, he signs the timesheets for who works in his office, then he submits those, then you just have that, the mayor is checking off and getting those submitted. But I'm not directing him, I'm not directing his operations. Those are done according to TCA, which is in conjunction with that advisory committee.
Yeah.
And then TCA also spells out that that appointment process. And it's kind of a big to-do, that appointment process. I mean, it was a big deal back in the day. Commissioner McCamey can probably walk you back through that. Claude Martin could walk you back through that process. But that is something where it is that's the process outlined in state law.
I have
But-
not heard anything, negative. Leon does a great job. I'm not opposed to it at all. It's just that
You
we
wanna
got it
see the
Sunday,
paper.
today's Monday, and I've really not had an opportunity to look at it and digest it. So for me, it's difficult to cast a vote when I really don't know what the vote is. And it's on paper here, but I can't find I looked for the 06 and the 07, couldn't find it downstairs, so. But just haven't had the time. But thank you for that
Yep,
explanation.
absolutely.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I don't have a problem with deferring it. I happened to be around in '06 myself, and to help Commissioner Palmer, we had a appointed committee of veterans, not just from Anderson County, but surrounding East Tennessee, because we wanted to make sure that we chose a veterans officer. There wasn't a friend of a friend or a college roommate or whatever. We wanted veterans to make the decision on who would serve the veterans the best. And they made a great recommendation, went to nominating, went to the Veterans Committee first, then it went to nominating, came to this body, we voted on it, and that's the way it's been. I want to be very clear, I'm the chairman of the Veterans Committee, along with my fellow Commissioner McCamey. We were the ones initially that helped move the Veterans Office from a part-time position to a full-time position. And what spurred that was we had a veteran that went in to see the part-time veterans officer, and he needed help because he was contemplating suicide. Unfortunately, he committed suicide. So we were able to get a full-time officer who does go above and beyond. And it's not about the money, even though the money is pretty nice that comes into this county. in surrounding counties. Leon sees a lot of people. He's considered the expert across the state. When many of us go to these Tennessee County Commissioners Association, they ask us in Anderson County, how do you do it? And I remember when we were trying to fund, I think the budget was somewhere in 53,000 or 63,000 when we first started. But anyway, to answer all that, the also good news is we're going to have 50,000 supposedly from the state. It's supposed to go to all the veterans services offices across all 95 counties. Don't know if that'll happen, but there's a representative in East Tennessee, Upper East Tennessee that's supporting that, and I appreciate that, and I hope it comes to be. So I don't have a problem with it. I just want to also say Officer Jaquette has no problems reporting to the mayor. Whatever way we want to do it, she wants to do it, he's happy with that. This isn't as I said earlier, political football at all. He has zero problems with the mayor. I have zero problems with the mayor. Leon does a great job helping our veterans. So, but I will say this, Commissioner Palmer, you mentioned a couple times there about you just got these papers yesterday or today. I could say the same thing about every one of these resolutions, but I voted for it. But I'm not here to debate people. I'm here to try to make our county better as a whole. There's supposed to be a employer record. I'm not here to debate Jay either, but according to the TCA and the way you wrote it, it looks pretty legal and reasonable to me. So I'm happy to defer it. I just wanted to bring you up to speed. I think those were probably motions. I don't think we didn't have proclamations or private acts back then. I don't think.
I think you're right. It was in, but we've got them. It's
Yeah. We
probably
did,
motion.
procedurally, we did the right thing and did what we had to do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, next is interlocal agreement for public library services.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay.
No.
Just-
You asked for a deferral last month on this because it hadn't been to all the cities, but I understand that Norris, Rocky Top, and Clinton are all in agreement up top.
With exception. With the exception, of Rocky Top. Spoke with the mayor. Shane and I went to city council, spoke with the mayor again. And what they would like to see is that the city council, the mayor, has input on who the library director is for that municipality. That's the feedback that I got. Other than that, they're good with it.
That's not in this agreement.
I know.
This is just the monetary agreement.
Mr. Chairman, I had a call from the manager of the city of Clinton, and he pointed out a mistake in section 2, which says that they pay the utilities. And he said they do not pay the utilities. They never have paid the utilities. So that is incorrect here.
It's not a mistake, okay? We're adding utilities. We do pay the utilities for each of those buildings, including the Briceville Library. But the two biggest changes for the monetary investment for the cities are picking up the utilities if they're not already doing so, and also the CPI adjustments. That's the changes.
Well, I think he has an issue then with this, because he asked me to make sure that it was corrected.
If this body wants it amended, we can amend it.
And here's something, 2 months ago, we had these questions, and we asked the mayor to go to the cities and get the answers to some of these questions. And then Commissioner Isabel asked last month that we had the opportunity to go back to our respective cities and talk to the city council, the managers, and see what they would like to, because this affects my district. One of these libraries is in my district. And so that I haven't had an opportunity to do that because December was a bust, but.
Well, I understand.
And I'm not sure if the mayor's had an opportunity to do what we asked her to do a couple months ago. So I'm really hesitant to force this through when we've not had all those conversations.
I understand. That's no problem.
So I can't vote for this right now because of that. And the city manager of Clinton has an issue with that, so I have to bring that and see what we can do.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Could I amend the motion to just codify the monetary agreement as it stands now and not, and kind of strike the part where, strike the CPI and strike the utility changes, if there's any utility changes, and just amend it to reflect the agreement that what the cities are already paying is what we're asking them to pay with no changes.
I think you do have the version, I've sent it to you, of the agreement. It's got all the signatures of the mayors on it. That's the, basically a maintenance of effort agreement with the state. That is an appendix to it, but I can make those changes, sir. That's just striking the CPI clause and striking the utility clause, correct?
Right, and if we could amend it to that, just to get, so we've got a written agreement in place with no changes, and then if the next commission or next year, if we decide we want to take up CPI or something, we could do that. Then, as far as the mayors having the influence or something on hiring their local librarian, I think maybe Matthew Jordan from the regional library could speak to this, but basically the way the state system operates is they tell the county create a board, and the board hires and fires the directors, and that's kind of the way that's set up. And I know in some cases, like with Clinton, based on the size of the population it serves, that person has got to have a master's in library science. Mm-hmm. Like what Commissioner Wandell was saying earlier, it doesn't matter how much you like your college roommate or your best friend, it's got to be somebody with a master's in library science. So I know maybe Rocky Top's not, they don't meet that threshold, so it's not the same educational requirement. But Matthew, do you want to comment on any of that?
I'm Matthew Jordan, the Clinch River Regional Library Director, a state agency under the Secretary of State's department. Y'all have met me before when I came to speak about this previously. The board hires and fires. Of course, commissions and councils have their input about who goes onto the board. As far as the educational requirement, that is something that is not in state law, at least in Tennessee. In many states, all library directors are required to have a master's degree. In Tennessee, generally it's preferred for larger libraries to have directors to have a master's in library science. But that's something that the library board can put in or take out of the job description and the hiring. That's been in place for a long time, that the Clinton Library director has a master's in library science, but it's not codified in law. And I'm not a lawyer.
Okay. And I think what Mayor Templeton was talking about, if they're taking on more responsibility, they want more say-so in how the library's being run. So at this point, I'd vote no, and just based on the conversation I've had with the city council and the mayor.
Does Mayor Frick, do you have a progress report, or have you talked with anyone, or your thoughts on any of this?
I do not. I don't. I mean, I do think there's much more work to be done on this. I think the county unanswered really and truly is some of the employment issues and some of the same discussions that are being held about multiple other departments. So I understand there is a board, and the board has the ultimate authority over the director, and then the director has ultimate authority over the staff. But again, I'll repeat some of my concerns, which are the county is a minority membership on the board, and the county is accepting all of the liability, any issue associated with the appointment without having any mechanism for true supervision of those employees. So I do think it's problematic. And I also think there's been a little bit of, misconception about maintenance of effort. I've pointed out in the past where the county has borne all of the increases of maintenance of effort. And there is this talking point that's been put out there that if the county does not maintain our maintenance of effort, under a joint operation agreement, the maintenance of effort is for all of those. That's why that form that we fill out is based on a percentage donation from each in order to meet that maintenance of effort. And, we're already operating in this format. We've never found evidence of the joint cooperation agreement, but I do think it should be more contractually based on, it's more than joint operation. We're also serving as the fiscal administrator. There are some things like that that I think need to be worked out. That's on you, that's however you all want to handle that going forward, but ultimately I do think some of those things need to be addressed. So whether it's in this resolution or something else, I would just like to bring that point up.
Any other discussion? All in favor of the interlocal agreement as written, say aye.
I think he had an amendment.
Oh.
Did you? did you
Yeah,
have a
well, I
second?
don't know if we needed a second or
We
had a
didn't get a
second.
second.
Okay.
What was the amendment?
The amendment was just to go to the version with no CPI adjustment, no utility changes, just codifying the financial arrangement as is.
Sure, I made the original motion, but I would second his amendment, because I agree that we need something in writing. We don't have anything in writing.
So we're going, not as written, but we're going with the amendment.
With the amendment is what I would prefer, and this is only good through June 30th. So anything that needs to be changed, if the city of Rocky Top wants to change something or withdraw, that's up to them.
Mhm.
Same with Norris and the same with Clinton. But this is all up for negotiations when our budget starts, next month? January, February? We'll start budget hearings next month. And at that point, that's when they need to step up and say yay or nay, or we don't want to be a part of the.
Then why don't we wait till next month when the budget comes up and when we do all this?
Because we've got this in writing for this year, because the money's already there, we're already spending the money, and we're operating.
I understand.
And this doesn't change anything.
Yeah,
If we take out the
CPI agreement.
the CPI agreement and the,
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. So is there a rush or a reason to do this now when we've never had one, to put something, to push this out now?
Commissioner, you were the one brought it up about 4 months ago, and we've discussed it for 4 months now.
It's been the same, nothing's been changed. We made a motion, we asked the mayor to get some answers to some questions, and then the next thing I know, this is out, and we've not heard anything.
Because that's the way we're operating now. And I want to continue that
But
through this budget year.
Without the
since
CPI.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Since we've already, and if you take the CPI out and the utilities, that's the way we're operating. And we have something to operate under. We're not operating under anything right now, according to what you told us 4 months ago. We had no agreement with any of the cities or anything. And we didn't have. This gives us that agreement with the cities. And then it's up for renewal come July 1. We have to have a budget in place, and everything has to be agreed on by the cities and the county again. And if we add this CPI and we add the utilities back into it and they agree, that's fine. If you don't, maybe they want to withdraw it and run their own library system. But this gives us something to operate under legally that you brought up 4 months ago that we didn't have. So.
Mr. Chairman, as a seconder of the original motion, I'll agree with the change that Commissioner McCamey and Commissioner Anderson has.
Okay.
I don't really know the legalese Section 9J, the agreement will have no effect unless approved. So if it's not signed by the cities, does everything continue as is, or?
That agreement would have no effect, but you still have that maintenance of effort agreement. That's already been signed by the mayors of each jurisdiction.
Okay.
This is memorializing what I was asked to do is memorialize the relationship that we have, that there was nothing in place, and that's what I attempted to do here.
And that's my agreement also, is that this mirrors what current reality, besides those items that were amended. And then section 10, it says 3 years, so is that different than what Commissioner McCamey is saying about
He's
June
talking about
30th?
the budget process.
Just the budget
process could change it. You know, we've got a tax levy on this also, but the actual agreement would stand for 3 years unless they want it changed, and we can do that. But I think what Commissioner McCamey's referring to is the budget cycle. That's when we make our final appropriations for the various codes in the chart of accounts.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Matthew.
Any other discussion? Let me remind you, if it passes and it goes full commission,
Yeah.
I'll be voting no until I talk to the city council and to the mayor. But that vote can always change on Monday night. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Let the record reflect 2 noes. Motion passes for the full commission. Okay? Next is new business. Any new business come before the committee? Seeing none, we'll go to old business. All right, we'll start with the strategic workshop that was put on there first.
Okay.
Have you got old business too? Have you got any old business?
All right, Mr. Chairman. If you remember, we had this strategic planning workshop in October, and we received the information from the Kathy Price. I hope everyone had an opportunity to read all of that. It was emailed to you guys. But at the very end, there was, we listed some priorities, and then we were to go through and try to come up with the goals, you know, how we could have some measurable things, and just how we were going to implement the priorities. So when we got to that portion of the workshop, we ran out of time. We had covered so much ground, we ran out of time. If you looked at that, we had 9 priorities, but we only had goals listed for 6 of them. And as I was looking over this, a lot of what we talked about, we have already implemented. We've also started the conversation on a lot of these. So I feel like in just the last couple of months, since we had this workshop, that we've been at work and we got busy and we've done a lot of these things, but we did not finish. And so at the end, she gave some recommendations. One of the recommendations was that County Commission have another 1-day workshop sometime within the 90 days. I know we're probably past that, but to further define goals, responsibilities, and timelines for accomplishing our strategic priorities. And then the second thing that we didn't get to was this County Commission should also consider and prioritize how they build their capital fund for future capital project needs. And I know that Commissioner Barron had a conversation and had said, you know, we need to look at how we're going to fund building some of the things that we've talked about building, and or some of the projects that we talked about during that workshop. Where's the money going to come from for those things? So we never did get to finish that. So she is recommending that we do that. It may be good for us to do this before we start this budget process, maybe in February or March. I've not talked with Kathy Price. I don't know when she will be available, but she has agreed to come back. She did say that it would be an additional $1,000. I think that when she sent the invoice to Mayor Frank's office, Mayor Frank had some ideas on that maybe she would have some money that she would be willing to pay for that for that, additional workshop to kind of finish up what we had started. So my thoughts were, I just wanted to bring it to you. I hope you've looked at that. I hope you've seen what we've accomplished. I hope you saw the value in it. But if you are interested in maybe sending it to full commission and see if there's interest there, that's what I wanted to do, is just.
You want to make a motion to meet in February or March?
How about I'll make a motion, that we will meet in February or March, depending on what, Kathy Price's availability, to finish this workshop, to finish what we started with that strategic planning, setting some goals, and the capital outlays.
And the additional cost to be,
$1,000.
and it would come from the mayor's budget? Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
that sounds fair.
Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second for the
Okay.
discussion, yeah.
All right. Discussion. All in favor of meeting again on January or, in February or March, according to what Kathy Price says, to continue our strategic workshop, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. Next, Commissioner Wanda.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have several items I'd like to check on. First is this 20-year growth plan. Do we have anyone that knows where we are with the 20-year growth plan for the state?
I think that's probably one of the things, and I've asked Commissioner, I wasn't able because I was sick during the last strategic planning, but that was one of the things that I spoke to her about, is actually wanting to take that up, because we've talked about it, and, you know, we just haven't gotten to that point yet, so I think that's something we need to definitely do.
If it's appropriate, I'd like to make a motion that we proceed with the TCA code 6-58-101 for the 20-year growth plan that's required for the state of Tennessee for Anderson County. I so move.
Okay, how do you want to start that from this committee, or wait till we have the planning workshop, or?
Well, we can start with this committee, Mr. Chairman. I just wondered if we had one in place now, and then what's the update look like?
All right, let's put
But
it
yeah,
on-
we can start here.
Let's put it on there for next month. We'll start in
Okay.
operations.
That's-
Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion, and second. Discussion on the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, the importance of that for me is I'd like to understand, with Bull Run being shuttered at some point in life, I'd like for that to kind of be looked at in that process, but that'll be a process, so thank you. Is it okay to go on to the next item?
Yeah, because that's one of the things I've been concerned with, because we got growth. But who pays for the infrastructure in this growth? So that needs to be planned.
Yep.
So how that's going to happen. Go ahead, your next.
It'd probably tie into the strategic stuff there, of course.
It was priority number 8, and we didn't get to
Gotcha.
finish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. Next, Mr. Chairman, the mayor had approached us, and forgive me, I may not have paid attention, but on the Veterans Bridge flagpoles, it's my understanding in the Veterans Committee, Mayor, that we're not going to have flags now. Is that correct?
Yes, so I did bring that to commission and explain that when I asked for commission's authorization to approach TWRA. So TDOT said we could not put a flagpole there. We did approve, I believe, at last month's meeting. I can't remember if I brought it through this committee or put it on my mayor's. No, I think I did it on the full mayor's report and full commission. The license for the property in the median, where we can still do a lower profile monument to notate that it is Veterans Bridge. We could even put a depiction of the flag on a monument, still have our landscaping. So we have that license agreement. I haven't gotten the executed agreement back from the commissioner of TDOT yet. And it's still a work in progress on what I discussed with TDOT was, it was actually their suggestion that we try to locate the flag on that TWRA property that the county actually manages for TWRA. It's the ramp there that is adjacent to the bridge. And so we may be able to get a flagpole there, so you would still see a flag at the bridge, and then we would have the appropriate markers in the median.
Okay. And I want to be very clear, Mayor. You're the only one that has made any progress on this, and I know it's hard, but for me to have a marker in the middle of the median, for people to go maybe stop and cross the two-lane traffic to go look at it is very concerning that TDOT would think that's appropriate. I wouldn't advocate any signage out there because I don't want nobody trying to walk out and, you know, I have trouble, and I understand there's laws and there's procedures. We've been fighting this battle for over 10 years to put flags at the Veterans Bridge, and it seems to be the most contentious item in the world to put flags on a Veterans Bridge. It's just comical sometimes. That's all you can do. She's answered my question, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate it. Next, Mr. Chairman, if I could move on.
Sure.
Delinquent property taxes, 2014 to 2021. My understanding, the total is $885,717.94. I would like to know, I understand the trustee's office, the clerk and master reports to us on a yearly basis, but my concern is the taxes that are due that seem to not be talked about, which I guess are in freeze state, I don't know, but Mr. Chairman, I'd like to figure out how we can collect the $885,000 from 2014 to 2021, and I'd like clear direction on why we're not collecting it. And this isn't the trustee's fault. I want to be very clear on that, but I want to know why we're not pursuing legal action on the $885,717.94. And if it probably helps, I'll just make a motion that we move forward with a response to the 2014 to 2021 delinquent property taxes of $885,717.94. I make that in the form of motion to get an update, and I so move.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
Does that number sound right, Jay?
I have no idea. That's county taxes. I don't do county taxes. That's done through the trustee's office and Mr. Cry across the street. I couldn't tell you. Right now I have a sale coming up for Oak Ridge that's got 7 parcels left in it. I don't have any in Norris right now. They're all paid up. But I did hear one here a couple weeks ago that had 2014 taxes on it, so I'm sure there's more. I spoke with Mr. Cry today by email, and he had an issue on one going back to 2014. So I'd say what Commissioner Wandell is saying is correct. Well, there is delinquent taxes out there going back to 2014, but I couldn't give you a report on it. That's between Ms. Copeland and Mr. Cry to tell you where they're at on collection. But the way the law is, it's not frozen. They're accruing interest on delinquent interest. So the longer you wait, you're going to have more interest on it, which we've seen this when the interest accrues to a certain point, it makes the properties less marketable at the tax sale, which in turn forces the county to pick up more taxes. You've got to have a sale every year, and that's just my advice, but I couldn't tell you accurately where these stand. You'd have to get a report from the clerk and master, the trustee, and Mr. Cry, but I'd say Mr. Cry's working them. He had a tax sale not long ago. In fact, I think I put the report in the county commission in agenda packet last month. So you can see where he's at, what he sold, and what tax years were delinquent. But evidently, there is some that are lingering out there from 2014.
I'd like for our trustee to come in and explain to us at the county commission meeting. I'd say she'd be glad to do that, explain to us what's going on, and if she feels she needs to have Mr. Cry here, you know, that would be good too. I can't see a property with taxes past due in 2014 that hadn't already been taken care of, either sold by the county or whatever, you know, for back taxes. I mean, I don't understand why we would have any in 2014.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, it seems it might have something to do with the prior tax attorney. And so it seems as if we're just kind of in limbo, which I don't think is fair to the people that pay their taxes. And I think the people that don't pay their taxes should pay their taxes. And I don't know why we ended up in this state. The prior tax collection attorney sounds like had some issues. And we continue to have issues. So that's why I'm making this request, so we can address it. Again, I don't think the trustee is, certainly love to hear from the trustee, certainly love to hear from Mr. Cry, but I think what we'll hear from each of them is that the prior tax attorney is the reason we have these outstanding taxes. That's just my estimated guess.
I think either one of those could tell us how they're going to remedy what happened in the past, if, you know, if something did happen in the past.
I would say it would, well, I can't say, I'll just request the information.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Last item, Mr. Chairman, and I appreciate you letting me discuss these items. Since August of 2022, I've never asked for this information, but tonight I believe I will, Mr. Chairman. I would like a summary from the HR office on the findings for the last animal director we had. I have never seen any results, produced any information on the investigation of the last animal control officer. I would like to have a summary of those findings, and I'd like to have them as quickly as I can. That is my motion. Minus private information.
We have a motion, do we have a second? Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? One no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ball game time.
Folks, anything else?
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, I meant to say this around the prayer. Just everybody remember the Graham family. John Graham, who was a longtime custodian at Fairview Elementary, passed away. He and his wife Rita were both at Fairview for probably 30 plus years. I know they cleaned up after me, so they've been there for a while, but I think his funeral was today, actually.
Sorry to hear that. Anything else come before this committee?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I wanted to just distribute that draft letter,
Oh, that's right.
and if you all want to just look at it and get back with me on the,
I had it wrote down there, but I had so many notes. I had it wrote over.
that's on the postal department.
Yes.
And then also, if you would allow me, the reason that I invited Damon, if you'll recall, I invited him last month to share with you what he's seen on a community-wide basis, and that kind of got derailed tonight. I also want to say, you know, we come up here and what you end up hearing is a lot about conflict between the committee and the mayor. And these people work incredibly hard on a day-to-day basis. And Director McKenna, on Christmas, animals still have to be taken care of. And he let all of his staff off and worked Christmas. And a lot of those adoptions on there have been in the face of the negative publicity. We were hitting it out of the ballpark. With our tiny little facility, we had reported in the past that we were near status for a no-kill shelter. And now we can't touch that. And it's not about working with a committee. It's called bad PR that we're still walking through. And I would love for our commissioners, we had an open house. I know some of the commissioners have been there. We only had 3 commissioners come. I would love for the commissioners to thank these employees that are working in a facility. We're in a county of 78,000, and with your help, we're working towards a new shelter. We're marching along. That's a work in progress. I know, thank you to Commission. We got to purchase that land last month. It's another step forward, but, you know, we come up here and it becomes about a committee advising and more advice and more advice, more advice. These are people that know animals. Damon comes from Young Williams Animal Center, which everyone promotes as the best. But, you know, they do some things, too, that I don't agree with. They release animals back out without an owner. And, you know, we're all dealing with a pet overpopulation. And I just would like to come up sometime with our folks in here. Thank you. Thank you for working in the face of adversity. Thank you for answering all of these calls, doing the best you can, because you see the numbers. They're begging people not to, can you hold off? Can you wait a little longer? We're a shelter that has to, we can't turn anybody away. That's what we do. I mean, if they are full in Oak Ridge, we're open intake. We got to try our best to take them in the county. So I just would beg some of you, just give them a word of encouragement, and whatever in the past with members of that committee and the mayor, can we go up and over that? And I would really like to see that. But Damon, I know they're ready to go home, but if you wouldn't mind just sharing a little bit. I had shared with them this original purpose was what we're seeing are vacated homes, whether it's a drug issue or something, and then we're seeing 4 and 5 animals at that home that are abandoned. And we're doing the best we can, not wanting to euthanize them. This team will, if they've got shelter and water, they'll go by and make sure they've got food while they're trying to triage a home. But if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about what you're seeing there on a community standpoint.
There are a few hot spots in the community, especially up New River, a lot of places up in Lake City. But it is true poverty. We are seeing a lot of, like the mayor said, a lot of homes abandoned and they just have to leave their animals there. And or someone can't make rent, or they can't make their mortgage payment and they just leave the home and they leave the animals there. And it's happening a lot. And that does not even include the calls we get in from the sheriff's department where someone's being arrested for drug paraphernalia and we had to take that animal in whether we want to or not. And if we are full, whatever animals we have there, let's say we may have planned on putting one on an adoption track, we have to make room. So that's another reason why that number is so high. 12 kennels is extremely inappropriate for a county of this size. And until we make some kind of improvement in that area, the dam is only going to keep getting deeper and deeper. The problem's going to keep multiplying every month, every year. I have a really good staff. I'm very proud of my staff. They not only have to deal with everything on a daily basis there at the shelter, but they go out in the community a lot, and most of the time those are negative interactions, you know, and we try to make the best of it. But I promise you we're doing the best we can right now.
I have just a real quick, and I apologize. I thought that I should say something before, and I didn't, just because we don't like long meetings around here. But anyway, I'm one of the 3 commissioners that came, and I was really impressed. Very small, but very clean, very well kept. There was a lot of volunteers there. One of the girls was a high school student that I happened to know. I was thrilled to see her there, and she is thriving. She's had some difficulties in her past, but she's thriving because she's volunteering there at the shelter, and it really did my heart good to see her. I think that you're doing a great job. I had not seen the shelter before in, you know, up close and personal, just from a distance, and it's smaller than what I thought, just from looking from the outside. And you do a good job, and I thank you for what you do. I know that this is an issue. I wasn't here back during the contentious times, and I'm sorry for all of that. I hope that we can work together and move forward, but thank you. You do. I was impressed with what I saw when I came out there.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'm chairman of the Solid Waste Board. I go out to visit with Jeff quite often about different things with solid waste, their convenience centers and all that. And of course, the animal shelter's right there. So I see it more than Damon may think that I do. But I just want to say I appreciate you being here. And Dr. Garrett, I'm sure that you'd rather be home watching the national championship football team. But we appreciate you being here tonight, both of you. And I appreciate what you do, Damon.
Thank you.
Anything else? Mayor, did you want approval for this letter?
Well, I know I just sent it to you. I mean, it's just from Operations Committee. If you want to review it and email me, that's fine, and I can get it sent out, or if you want to make changes, corrections, whatever, however you want to handle it.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we approve the letter as presented.
Okay.
I'll second.
2 seconds. All right. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes unanimous. Thank you, Mayor. One more motion. Just stand up, and we'll call it adjourned.